Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to a Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Welcome back to the Going Deep segment brought to you by CO2 Lift, the regenerative science transforming how women restore confidence and cellular health. Today, we're diving into a topic millions of women are whispering about, but few feel comfortable addressing: the intimate changes happening with rapid weight loss, menopause, perimenopause, and hormonal decline. From Ozempic face to the viral Ozempic Vagina, women are seeing unexpected shifts in elasticity, collagen, and volume, especially in the vaginal area and mons pubis. Joining me is the perfect expert to help us understand what's really happening and how to fix it. Dr. Falguni Patel is New Jersey's leading specialist in cosmetics and functional gynecology, a Mount Sinai trained physician, a board-certified OBGYN since 2003, and an expert in menopausal management and bioidentical hormone replacement. She's dedicated her career to helping women reclaim comfort, confidence, and vitality at every age. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Thank you so much for having me, Zen.
I'm so excited. Let's go deep. No pun intended. Okay. Dr. Patel, there's over 5 million Americans on GLP-1 medications like Ozempic and Wegovy. And we hear a lot about Ozempic face, but women are now talking about Ozempic Vagina and even Ozempic Mons, where rapid fat loss actually changes the shape of the vaginal area. Now, in simple terms, what is happening to the pelvic floor, the vaginal lips, and the mons pubis when women lose weight this quickly?
The mons pubis itself is a very stubborn area of fat. It's Mother Nature's protecting the pelvic organ. So that is the last fat to go. So you kind of are left with the mound over there. And then below that, which is the labia majora and the minora, is no different than the facial fat. So as your face sinks in, so does the labia majora. And you end up having loose, wrinkly labia majora, labia minora, which just hangs. And depending on your age, if you are post-childbirth, it's going to be worse. If you're younger, it's not so bad. But the one thing that doesn't change much is the mons pubis. So it almost seems like it's protruding now more than it did before.
Wow, women really aren't warned about these changes, and it can deeply affect confidence and intimacy, right? Because these are very sensitive areas. So let's talk about the hormones and menopause and this tissue decline and go a little bit further. So more than 50 million American women are currently in menopause, and studies show that 68% of us, for those that are in it, feel unprepared for the physical changes. So when you combine hormone decline with weight loss medications, it creates a perfect storm of thinning tissue, dryness, and collagen loss. So how do estrogen decline, collagen depletion, and rapid fat loss interact? And what, in your opinion, are the biggest symptoms women should look out for?
So, when we lose fat, the loss of adipose tissue is actually a source of estrogen as well. So you're losing estrogen that way. Then you have menopause on top of it, with the estrogen production being lower just because your ovaries are starting to shut down. So you have two whammies against you. So as you lose that rapid estradiol production in your body, you're decreasing blood flow to many parts of your area. Collagen production decreases, elastin decreases. And as a result, especially when it comes to feminine wellness, you end up having dry vagina, almost like I call it a dead vagina, in the sense that there's very little sensation left down there. And one of the few sensations you have is not a pleasant one, such as itching or dry skin. But with with the decrease in blood flow, you almost feel like clitoral stimulation isn't the same, sex drive isn't the same, and the intimacy is affected a lot. So patients are prepared for weight loss. They're not prepared for the systemic menopausal symptoms like hot flashes, irritability, difficulty sleeping, but also the physical changes that start to happen vaginally with the vaginal dryness, maybe increase in stress incontinence, and maybe even discomfort with sex.
That's so validating, because women think it's just them when it's actually physiology. Now, the emotional toll, there's a big one. One thing women tell me is that these changes don't just affect comfort, they affect identity, especially when the body changes faster than the mind can adapt. So from your experience, how do these intimate changes impact women emotionally? And what's the first thing you want a patient to understand when she walks into your office feeling like overwhelmed?
when you don't feel confident in your body, you don't feel that there's parts of your body as they were before, you start to doubt a lot of stuff in life. And I always say you sort of almost lose your empowerment. And as a woman loses her empowerment, we lose a lot. We lose a lot of control. So the first thing I tell them is that you're not alone. And this is something that we can definitely change. It's understanding what's going on and then addressing it. And by showing up to a doctor's office to discuss it is the first step in empowerment to say, I'm here to help myself.
Now let's talk about solutions backed by actual science. So CO2 Lift V, the vaginal treatment, increases oxygenation and blood flow by up to 40%, helping really stimulate hydration, collagen, and that elasticity that we've been talking about, all without downtime or devices. I know you offer it in your practice. Can you walk us through how CO2 Lift V actually works and what types of results your patients are experiencing?
So I describe it as like a mini bariatric chamber for your vagina. So when when the carboxy V is applied, it ends up causing more oxygenation in the area. With any increase in oxygenation, there'll be a better blood flow. With better blood flow, you get the rejuvenation of the glandular tissue, which helps make normal secretions. The pH is balanced again. And as the pH is balanced, elastin production doesn't come back right away. That's more estrogen, but you do get a sense of, I call it sensuality, where you don't feel irritated like a sandpaper. And the carboxy V is like the first line in making a patient feel that it's not dead down there. It is alive. There's still stimulation and there's still moisture and all that stuff. So I love it for that initial effect. I usually add that with vaginal estrogen treatments to really improve their elasticity and long-term function so that their intimacy is not affected.
Incredible, especially because it's non-invasive, right? And women can start seeing improvement really
Correct.
quickly. And I love that it's clinically researched and clinically verified. And it's another, incredible modality in that toolbox that you can offer women that really, the results are game changer. I've been using it and I'm absolutely obsessed. Now let's talk about where regenerative aesthetics are going. So the global feminine rejuvenation market is projected to surpass $6 billion by 2030. I mean, us gals have our mind exactly where we should be spending it, right? So with non-invasive regenerative therapies leading the way in the trend, where do you see the future of feminine wellness and vaginal rejuvenation heading? And what role do regenerative technologies like CO2 Lift V play in that evolution?
More and more women are understanding that their vaginal health is important. It's not just a physical change, it's an emotional, systemic change. So it affects so many parts of their bodies and their minds, actually. So when women are going through the changes, I find it's changing in the way where more and more women are going to come in and ask for treatment, whether it be estradiol treatment, which has recently reached a lot of media attention, saying it is a lot more safer, which we've known, but has been sort of, like you said, downplayed by a study back in 2002. But at this point, with the estrogen rejuvenating the vagina, and then you have moisture with something like carboxy V, those are the first lines in making ourselves feel healthy. Where's vaginal rejuvenation going? I mean, there's a lot of non-surgical devices to help tighten the skin, improve the health of the vaginal walls. And there's obviously surgical devices as surgical methods as well to help restore the tightness more permanently. But the non-invasive is where most of us are starting.
Yeah, and that's exactly the direction women have been waiting for, right? Solutions that are effective, safe, and really stigma-free. I always say that the first step is listening and really understanding, what that woman wants, and you do such a good job at that. I met you personally at an incredible event, and I loved how you listened very carefully to every question and really answered it with such honest truth and transparency, and even incorporating your own, personal stories in there, which made it feel so much more personable. Because there's many women listening right now, they feel, curious and also hopeful, but more importantly, they feel intimidated and they don't know where to begin. So for women experiencing dryness, sagging, loss of elasticity, or changes from Ozempic or menopause, what's the smartest and safest step to take?
I would say talking to your doctor. I know that not all gynecologists are very open about speaking of intimate health, but if they're not comfortable with it, then you find a provider that you feel comfortable talking to. Um, but that is the first step. You have to talk. And I think the other big problem is that women don't talk about it openly with each other. We could all have a glass of wine and talk about many other things, but when it comes to intimate health, I think if we were more open with each other, I think we'd have a better idea that we're not alone in this.
Right, exactly. Now, for somebody, like myself, who is without a doubt in perimenopause, right? And through only, I don't know this through the research that I've been interviewing experts like yourself, that perimenopause can start in your late 30s, early 40s, and it could really, it's that decade of decline and confusion, because we have not been prepped for perimenopause, and all of those changes are the prelude to the kiss, right? Like it's happening in real time.
Yep.
So if you can give me the biggest misconception you've heard about perimenopause and or even menopause when women walk into your office, what would it be?
I think the biggest misconception is that people think they're not supposed to seek help until their periods have stopped. Like yourself, I was 41 when I needed to start some bioidentical hormones for myself. But even as a healthcare professional, I probably fought it for a year, just not accepting the fact that I was aging. I think that's the truth with most women. We juggle careers, raising children, family life. We're still given all these multiple roles, and we blame it on life. We blame it on the fact that, oh, I'm a mother, I'm a career woman, I'm a wife, and therefore I'm feeling the way I am. There's no reason not to feel great even while you're doing all of those things. So as the changes start to happen, like you said, in the late 30s into the early 40s, that, in my opinion, is the perfect time to seek out a specialist to discuss what you're feeling. If you're feeling anxious, you're not alone. If you're having difficulty sleeping through the night, you're not alone. If you feel like you have no desire for your partner, you're definitely not alone. That doesn't mean that your marriage or your relationship isn't an issue. That doesn't mean you have depression or anxiety. It just means you're going through hormonal changes, and sometimes hormonal balance is the first step. And when I say hormonal balance, I'm not just talking about prescription medications. I'm talking about balancing minerals, vitamins, good nutrition, all of it.
So a woman in her early 40s, the misconception has always been, oh, you have your regular periods, you don't need any HRT. I learned something when I heard you speak at an event for CO2 Lift at their pop-up in Soho, and you said something that stuck with me. You said that you yourself went on testosterone.
I did.
Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. I mean, at 41, I was very anxious, very agitated all the time. I blamed it on the fact that I, had a rapidly growing career and I was raising children, found no interest in my spouse. And at the end of the day, I realized that all of my individual components around me were fine. It was me in my head. I didn't feel like myself. I just blamed it on the fact that I was too tired, too exhausted because of everything I was doing. It wasn't until I was in the OR one day when I finished a hysterectomy and I realized I was at a high 1 second and then I was emotionally broken the next. And I was surrounded by a whole bunch of women and I just let myself go and I just cried. And I realized at 41, I had no control of the way I felt. And I just decided it was time to get my A game back on. I always joke with women, you're not doing well when you are not putting that little extra effort into yourself. When I went on replacement, all of a sudden I felt like my young self again, where I
How
felt
old were you when you went on replacement?
41. And
Got
I
it.
remember feeling, wow, I feel sexy again. I feel like I want to be active. I want to have fun. I don't want to stay in bed. I don't want to just go through the mimics of life of where I get up, go to work, get my kids out of the house, come back home, take care of my kids, do my housely duties, and then, go take care of my patients, the next day. I needed to live my life. That was the big thing. I was just in motion, but I wasn't living it. And when I went on treatment, all of a sudden I felt alive again. I felt like there was purpose to me. That is something only you have to be able to identify that you're not living your life to the fullest. Nobody can help you unless you're ready for help. Nobody was able to help me because I was in denial. It wasn't until I sat down and I realized this is not me. This is not the person I was in my 20s. This is not the person I was in my early 30s. And it wasn't until then that I realized that if I don't start to treat these changes now, I'm going to be an unrecognizable person.
Every woman deserves to feel comfortable in her own body. And I thank you so much for your transparency, being my expert on the microphone today, and for all the knowledge that you shared, because this is definitely going to help a lot of women out there.
It was great being here today, Susan. Thank you.
And that's a wrap. Today's Going Deep segment was brought to you by CO2 Lift, the leader in regenerative, non-invasive beauty and intimate wellness. And to learn more about the incredible Dr. Falguni Patel, you can visit their website at rejuvenatenj.com. You can follow her on the gram at Falguni Patel MD and practice at Rejuvenate NJ, and explore the science behind CO2 Lift V and CO2 Lift by heading to CO2Lift.com and follow them on the gram at CO2 Lift for real transformations. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by CO2 Lift. As we age, our skin loses moisture and elasticity, causing wrinkled skin. You can reverse this aging process with CO2 Lift. CO2 Lift utilizes the powerful benefits of carbon dioxide to lift, tighten, and regenerate your skin. This simple, painless at-home carboxytherapy treatment is scientifically proven to reverse the aging process. You will see reduction in wrinkles, increase in luminosity, and improve pigmentation, sagging, skin tone, and radiance.
For more information or to order CO2 Lift, ask your skincare professional or go to CO2Lift.com.